Well, I think we'll start off with introducing everybody around the table real quick.
Yeah, so I met both of you. I'm Emily Fitzgerald. I am the crime reporter here at the paper.
Justina Thompson, I'm the regional editor here.
Isabel Vanderstoep. I'm a reporter who does, I don't really know.
Everything, just all of it.
I'm Jay Vanderstoep, and Todd and I are on the editorial board.
I'm Todd Chabot on the editorial board.
And you guys know me, Eric Schwartz.
Right on. So you guys ready?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll get this started. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you coming today for the Lewis County Sheriff debates here on October 27th. We have Rob Snaza, the incumbent, and Tracy Murphy, the challenger. Each candidate will get 2 minutes for opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. A time card will be held up for 10 seconds before the time expires. Please respect that as best you can. Candidates can request a 1 minute rebuttal. You just hold up your red card. There are no limits on rebuttals, but there is a 1 minute limit on the time, but you can have multiple rebuttals. Candidates will have 2 minutes for opening and closing statements. During the opening and closing, we're asking that there's no rebuttal. That's your opportunity to express what you want to express. So we're going to start off with the opening statement, and we will go with the incumbent, Rob Snaza.
Well, good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for being here. You know, this has been a great honor to go through here and run for sheriff again for my third term. There's a lot of things that we've done at the sheriff's office that I'm very proud of. I'm proud of the men and women that have stood up during some of our most immense times, whether it's through flooding, natural events, fires, whether it's through law enforcement reform, COVID. We've been there standing side by side next to our fellow Lewis County citizens. And each time we've faced the challenges, but we've faced them all together. Whether we're facing mandates that are sometimes unconstitutional, standing up and saying what is right. Standing up for the Constitution and supporting those that need to be a voice. And I feel that as we've gone on, the Sheriff's Office has done leaps and bounds when we talk about what we've done at the Sheriff's Office. You talk about what we've done at our jail. When I first started, we had one counselor. And I've said this many times. We now have 8 mental health counselors in our facility. Our goal is, and always has been, is that we are the largest mental health facility. We know that. But our goal is to get those people that are going through a mental health crisis, a substance use crisis, to get them to a pathway to success. And that could include our medication and treatment program, our substance use program, our recovery programs. And today we had a retirement on an individual who was responsible for getting people who were leaving our facility to a pathway to success to try to get them housing. Those are things we started, and that's just the last 8 years that I've been here. That doesn't count for the things that we've done on the road, getting equipment for our deputies, getting new programs, getting them the best tools necessary. In addition, we've also been able to get 3 new deputies. When I first started, we had 37 deputies working the road. Today, I can tell you we have 3 deputies, and we also have an animal control officer, so thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And Tracy, your 2 minute opening.
Well, I probably won't take all 2 minutes. I'll try to keep this short. I do appreciate the opportunity to sit down with y'all and you people out at home to just share with you that I am excited of the opportunity to be the next Lewis County Sheriff. I'm excited to work with the other law enforcement agencies in this county, as well as our social service providers, our ministry programs, and just to provide just more efficiency in the Sheriff's Office in the way that law enforcement services are provided to the citizens of Lewis County. So I'm excited about it. Thank you.
All right, first question. Has your opponent or their campaign team made any statements about you that you want to address now? And Mr. Murphy, you'll be the first.
Well, I don't know if they've. It's been said that I'm a Democrat. I've explained to people that though I am a Republican, I feel that the office of sheriff should be nonpartisan. I believe that the law and the Constitution apply to everyone equally. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. You know, our laws and our Constitution are for everyone equally, and I think that having it as a nonpartisan position is important. However, I am a Republican, and I've been a lifelong Republican, and the Republican Party historically has lined up with my biblical beliefs, and so that's why I tend to go Republican. I've had people ask me why I didn't say I was an independent while running for sheriff, and the thing that I have to say is, government, and especially in law enforcement, we need the trust of the people. And how can I start out on a venture saying I'm something I'm not? So I just wanted to clarify that.
If either of you ever want the question repeated, if you're the second one.
No, there's been a lot of things said. There's been some statements made in a vacuum. There's been statements that are false or that are made that are inappropriate. And it's been very disappointing. I mean, the thing about saying statements that I've heard are concerning. The fact that I'm under an investigation. Well, the only investigation I would say that I would be under is the fact that my opponent filed a complaint against me with the prosecutor Meyer regarding inappropriate use of funds. And it's very disappointing that's gone on. I've received phone calls up to this date, and that is simply not true. Those are misinformation statements that are being made. And it's sad that we're having these conversations because we're having conversations about this. The funds that were used were drug funds that were used to purchase equipment for our patrol vehicles, to purchase equipment for our deputies. Now, this complaint that Prosecutor Meyer cannot do anything about, send it to the state auditor's office, and the state auditor's office says, we'll look at this in March. We'll look at this when we do the next audit. But I can assure everyone here, there's no misappropriation of funds. There's no blocking of cases that have been said. The sheriff's office, as the sheriff, I don't slow roll cases. I don't get involved in cases. The sheriff is above reproach on that because that's not what the sheriff does. The sheriff does not handle cases. He's not into fraud. He's not into misleading the community. And my disappointment is that I've known my opponent his whole career, my career. And the things that have been said by his campaign and those that follow him or say things, it's really too bad.
Got a rebuttal.
Okay. First of all, I want to start by saying to you that I have asked to have a sit down with you from day one. And you have yet to take me up on this sit down. Some of these issues with the drug seizure fund, you might have been able to answer having a sit down with me. The problem about what the law says on our drug seizure fund, RCW 6950-505 clearly states that seized money has to be exclusively used for the purposes of drug investigations. And so when you look at the budgeting information out of that account that I got from the sheriff's office on a public records request, it shows inconsistencies on expenditures that don't meet the law, and specifically purchasing plaques and other items that have no nexus to a drug investigation. And in order for it to be accomplished, an audit has to be done.
Well, that's a great explanation, but that's not what people are being told. People are being told that I've committed fraud and that I'm under investigation. I recently received a phone call saying that I was responsible for bringing in Antifa and BLM. And then the next part, I was told that I was responsible for bringing in the militia or being a part of it. And those things are not true. The fact that remains is that we're continually making statements that are misleading and false. And it's very disappointing because we're both in law enforcement. We're brothers in arms. And we can't run a campaign. If you look at my campaign, go look at Facebook, go look at the Instagram. I've never said anything derogatory. I've never made accusations. But if you go to his website, you go to his Facebook, or you look at his wife's, you'll see that. And that is very unfortunate because we are brothers. And it's sad.
One rebuttal each.
Oh,
Nope.
No.
Unlimited.
Said
We did say
unlimited.
unlimited. I
That
know
meant
you get stuck in a loop
unlimited
there.
numbers throughout the debate. Okay,
Yeah.
then you get more.
Only because I do want to clear this, clear this up. Everything that I've said, everything that I've presented is I have factual information that came from your office. So it's not about a personal attack on you, because I don't have a personal issue with you. I'm running for sheriff because there's things that are being done incorrectly and that they need to be looked into. We have to be above reproach. We have to set the example. We have to be the standard in law enforcement. If we expect the citizens to obey the law, then we need to obey the law. And if there's nothing wrong, transparency is okay. Having something looked into is okay. There's no issues. The only way that an audit can be done is being requested either by the governor or by the prosecuting attorney. And so an audit does need to be done on the drug seizure fund.
And I'm going to argue with this because, and I apologize, we're going to stay on this a little bit, because purchasing equipment for deputies is for drug intervention. No equipment was not purchased, not for whether it has a nexus to drug investigations. We would not do this. That has to go through so many forms. You have to, first of all, make the request. It goes through a computer system called Munis, and then it goes to our auditor's office for approvals. So this is not a process. And the fact is that I know that you have talked to multiple elected officials and told them things that are simply not true. And that's the sad part. Because, as you said, to keep above reproach, I've been in law enforcement for 32 years. And I have worked very hard to be where I'm at today. And to be called a liar each and every time is very unfortunate. We're both live in this community. So.
All right, thank you. Next question. And we will start off with Rob Snaza on this one. As a news outlet, we rely on police agencies to notify us about crimes of interest to the community. The Sheriff's Office no longer has a news line or a Facebook page, and instead relies on occasional press releases. If granted a new term or elected for the first time, how would you improve communications with the media and the public?
Well, I do agree that we need to do a better job. And I have talked to individuals with the Chronicle regarding how we go about this. We do have a news brief that we have each day, but we got rid of the Facebook simply because Facebook has a different protocol on how you do business with the Sheriff's Office. So the unfortunate piece is that if you have a Facebook page, people can say a lot of different things. And at one time, we were putting a lot of things out on Facebook, but then it started getting attacked, and then I wanted to say, hey, can we delete some of this? And I said, no, Rob, you can't do it because it's against the law. So at that point, it was like, okay, we need to figure something out different of how we can share the information. And the good news is that we now have a PIO with the county, which we are going to be working with to get more information out to the community, because I know it's important. Because if you don't give the information, all there is assumptions, and people make these assumptions, or they say things that may be misrepresented. And so we are working at putting a better platform together for communication.
Thank you. And Tracy, same question. Would you like me to read it?
Yeah,
That's a
please.
long one. So, as a news outlet, we rely on police agencies to notify us about crimes of interest to the community. The Sheriff's Office no longer has a news line or a Facebook page, and instead relies on occasional press releases. If granted, or if elected for the first time, how would you improve communication with the media and the public?
So this is one of the big things that I think is very important for transparency. I have selected the undersheriff to be Stacy Brown. Stacy Brown was a chief at the Lewis County Sheriff's Office who dealt with all the social media aspects, the getting programs started under Sheriff Mansfield. And so I'm encouraged that she's willing to accept that position so that we can get all these programs and these things back up and running that we used to have. The ability to get things to the news media about people we're looking for, suspects, porch thieves who are stealing packages off porches, to be able to broadcast that out to on a social media platform to all residents in Lewis County to be on the lookout for these people is very important. And it just educates them on, safety and what's going on.
Thank you. There was a rebuttal?
Yeah, I want to talk about transparency. The sheriff's office is transparent. What we find is sometimes we're not giving information out, whether to the media outlets or something, for certain reasons. Those reasons are to protect the people involved. I know, there's certain a case that's coming up or that's been brought to our attention. The transparency is that we do not want to share information that may jeopardize a case. Now, I will say that as we go on, having an administrator do all your Facebook and media stuff is not the answer. We need to look for different ways where we can utilize someone, for instance, the county PIO or others that we can use an outlet. And I think with our current PIO that we're going to be able to do that more frequently and more often. And it's working with our media outlets.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify, it's not the administrator's job, it wouldn't be the undersheriff's job to run that, to actually be the one that does all the data input and does that. The undersheriff runs the day-to-day operations of the sheriff's office. They put the people in place that can help them do the job that they're required to do. So it's not administrators that do that job, just to clarify.
All right, thank you. And I'm glad you both understood the rebuttal rules better than I did.
Yours make more sense with Larry.
Well, it does. I was like, hey, that's fine. Yeah, we could stay on one question.
All right. The sheriff's office is not involved with the Joint Narcotics Enforcement Team, which is led locally by Mr. Murphy. Should the sheriff's office return to the team? If so, why or why not? And are we back to Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. As I've stated previously multiple times, it is just a huge priority to be part of this. The drug problem in our county and in the state and the nation is just out of control. And so to have that participation is important. For the price of one detective, you get a whole task force. So from a financial standpoint, it just makes sense to do that. And as I've said over and over again regarding this, if elected, I will definitely be seeking to put somebody back in JNET. Now, currently the stakeholders in JNET are the chief of Centralia and the chief of Chehalis, so they would have to okay it.
This question's been asked multiple times. And, it was unfortunate that we pulled out when we did. It was due to staffing levels. And since we've pulled out, we've had continued staffing levels. Our current detectives division is down 2 detectives to include patrol. We were down 6 individuals over this last year. It takes 1 year from the point of an interview to the point of finishing an academy and getting off FTO for a deputy to get on the road. We finished our last deputy who just graduated this last month. That makes 5 out of 6. 1 didn't work out, so we have 5, which is great news for us. But we still have to fill detectives' positions, and we still have to be able to respond to calls for service so that when the community calls, we're there. You also have to remember that multiple small cities were without law enforcement coverage. Who's responsible for that? It's the Lewis County Sheriff's Office. So now we have to respond. We were taking care of, at one time, we were taking care of Napavine, Toledo, PL, Vader. And then with the decreased staffing on state patrol and law enforcement in the East End, that's been a challenge. And we see continued growth in the East End, and we have to be responsive to the needs out there. So to get back into JNET, I would say is a question mark, because as Mr. Murphy said, that they're the placeholders now. They have DEA assigned. They're actually a DEA task force, which makes it challenging because they're part of that. Now, drugs are important, but so is crime. And we have to be able to be responsive to the citizens when they call us for help.
So I know that staffing is going to be an issue. When you're already short and you're trying to refill bodies. So we'll have to look at why those bodies left, so we can focus on the retention so we don't lose anybody else. But when you look at the upper end of the sheriff's office, when you have a 1-to-1 ratio of supervisor to laborer, we should be able to add more workload on the top end to adjust some people to fill in the lower end positions. The sheriff's office is pretty administratively heavy when you look at the duties of, say, the chief of the jail that's able to go out and run a motors unit, and doing a laborer's job. So I think that doing some reallocating of current staffing to push them lower would enable us to put somebody into JNet.
Well, I think that's coming from someone who doesn't know how the sheriff's is run. The Operations, Corrections, or Services Bureau, there's a multitude of what admin staff does. The fact is that we have staffing levels below 1990 staffing. Okay, we had 41 deputies back in 1990. We don't even have that today. So when you say the staffing levels, our expectation even at administrative level is that each one of us, a chief, an undersheriff, or a sheriff, is to be out on patrol. They are to be out there whenever they're available to assist our patrol divisions, to be there, not just to be a figurative person, but to be there and making a difference. We talk about, all these things going on. As the Blake decision has affected us, then we talk about other issues that are going on, and I'll rebuttal after he rebuttals.
That was it.
You got nothing. You're not going to raise your flag.
I will.
Come on,
I
do
will.
it.
Just so that you can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you.
Well,
That's it.
it's all about
It's a great discussion.
It's about just getting the information out, and it's about setting the priorities. What are the priorities? We know the priorities are the boots on the ground, because those are the ones that are going to respond when you need help. Those are the ones that are going to be going after the high-level drug dealers that are going to hopefully dry up source of supply so we don't have that coming into our communities. So we have to look at our resources, and we have to make those adjustments to see where our staffing, our manpower can be the most effective and efficient. If that means on the top end that we take on a little more work so that it frees up a body to handle the boots on the ground stuff, I've already spoken with Stacy Brown about this, and it is, though I might not know the inner workings of the sheriff's office, she for sure does. And this plan and this idea is something that will work.
You talk about responsiveness. First and foremost, we have to have people responding to calls for service. When you call, we want to be there. Now, there's things that we need to do proactively, and it may include a street crimes unit. We have we were very successful when we had a street crimes unit in the past, and we have those in plan to continue that as we move into 2023, along with other specialty positions. That's once staffing is up to, once we're fully staffed. But having a street crimes unit to proactively go after not just the drug issue, but let's talk about the burglars, the thefts, the vehicle prowls, the converter thefts. We need to proactively go after those individuals. We know the tie is drugs. We know that's the tie. But what we need to be doing is working with our partners to the north, to the south, and within to go after those individuals committing crime in our community.
Thank you. Okay, we'll jump to the next question, and we'll start with you, Rob. What services or assistance should be provided to inmates leaving the Lewis County Jail, whether it's for mental health, substance abuse, or something else?
That's a great question. For the last 8 years, we've really been working on that. Getting inmates transitional housing is the biggest issue that we're facing. So we have inmates that come through, and if they're staying there more than a few days, they'll come in. The first thing they do now is they'll come in, they'll get evaluated by a nurse. We never had that before I became sheriff. They get evaluated, and then we ask them, do you have addiction issues? Are you homeless? Are you a veteran in need? We're asking a myriad of questions so that we can provide the resources for them to a pathway to success. The challenge that we have is these individuals who are coming off drugs. So they're in, they'll get a prescription where they can come out and get Suboxone afterwards. What are they doing with that? That's a 3-day supply, they get it. Where are they going to go for 3 days? You know, are they going to go back out on the streets? Do they have a place to live? We really need to work together as a community to get transitional housing. Not a handout, but a helping hand. Those are important because we really need to find a pathway to success for these people. Good people make bad decisions. People with mental health never say, I wish I had mental health. Those are the people we need to help. And when you see someone who's been restored, we'll call it, they're on their medications, they're individuals like you and I out there. They don't wish this upon them. They want a pathway to success, and we need to help them.
Tracy, same question. I'll read it again real quick. What services or assistance should be provided to inmates leaving the Lewis County Jail, whether it's for mental health, substance abuse, or something else?
So I do get the question, but I think that, you know, you're asking a question that our legislative and policymakers should be dealing with. The Office of Sheriff deals with the law enforcement side, the criminal aspect of people's behavior. We deal with crime. So if we look at it from the standpoint of somebody commits a crime, they go to jail. So what should we be doing while they're in jail? Well, that's where they're, excuse the pun, they're a captive audience. So those who are in there for substance abuse, we get them in a program where they get clean in jail. They don't have a choice of where they're going to, you know, continue their Suboxone program because they are in there. And instead of working to just keep them on drugs so they don't get dope sick and have medical issues, we might have to seek more funding to bring up our medical in there so we can deal with the issues if somebody's, crashes because of their detoxing. Right now, if they need to go to the hospital, they transport somebody to the hospital and two correction staff stays with them. We need to have the facility inside so these people aren't taking up bed space out where we would go, where our family would go to the doctor. So I think we really need to focus on the inside of the jail, what happens while we're there. Get the jail ministry program back in so those people who want to go to Sunday church and get a message about the love of Jesus Christ, he's the one that can change your heart, not us. We get the heart change, we get the clarity of mind from them being off drugs. Now when they get out, and they can probably now start to make rational decisions to take advantage of the programs that are already being offered out there. The problem is they're not taking it because of the drug issue is so bad. So.
And Rob, you had a rebuttal?
Yes. When I first started, we only had 16-hour medical, and we increased it to 24-hour medical because we felt the need. Before I became sheriff, it was not uncommon for a corrections deputy to provide someone medications for their needs. That is simply not acceptable. There are individuals in our jail, as I said, good people make bad decisions. Our goal is to get them whatever resources. We have ministry program. But because of COVID restrictions, we weren't able to bring them into a congregate facility. But we provided Zoom, we provided one-on-one conversations. It is important that we have ministry and we have other programs. We have other individuals coming in from Cascade and other places to talk to these individuals. The key part is how do we get them when they get out of jail to a facility to get them the help?
Tracy.
So, as my opponent has said, he's had 8 years to deal with this problem, and it's a continual problem. So instead of focusing in on the outside, we should focus in on what's going on inside. Again, captive audience, if somebody's going to get clean, if somebody's going to get help, this is where the choices are limited or unlimited for them. So.
Rob?
I find this interesting. I walk the jail regularly. I'm in there. Those men and women from Cascade Mental Health or from veterans, they're in there all the time. We have great conversations. We have great partnerships. They are a captive audience. But let me reiterate this again. The goal is to help them, to provide resources so they have a business card. So we set appointments for them so that when they leave that facility, they can go to Cascade. They can go to DSHS. They get their Apple ID card, so they have insurance. Those are things that we help them do before they even leave. Those are conversations we have, and then we help them get those appointments before they leave the facility. What we need to do is work on how do we get them transported to those places? How do we get that one-stop shop so that we can help them?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, we're good.
No,
I did wanna-
it would just be reiterating what I've said.
I did
so.
want to reiterate, when I hold this up, you still have 10 seconds. So
Okay,
if you want
yeah.
to finish a thought, you can
Yeah.
finish the thought.
All right, thank you. The county on Tuesday passed an ordinance banning homeless camps on Lewis County property. Do you agree with the ordinance? Why or why not? Mr. Murphy.
So again, the job of law enforcement is to enforce the laws and uphold the Constitution. When we look at the ordinance and the opportunities that these people have to get help, I mean, we're going above and beyond. City of Centralia has a similar ordinance. The problems that come from, it's not the homelessness. It's in these homeless camps, it's the criminal activity, it's the drug use, it's the needles that are laying on the ground that our kids are going to stumble upon or have potentially can stumble upon. So I am in agreement for the ordinance. I think it's important to have. We have these opportunities for these people to choose to get help and to get off the drugs, off the issues that they're having. But if they're choosing to live or to reject it and not accept it, and they want to live in areas that, they're committing crimes. We have to focus on the crime. So from the law enforcement side, that's what we deal with. We deal with the crime. I know that for us, the people who pay the taxes and they live in our communities, you want to help somebody, but how often, how far are you going to go? You can't make them do anything. If you're offering the hand and they're not choosing to take it, it's like, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. At some point, there has to be a consequence for your action. And the consequence is not a consequence for being homeless, it's a consequence for violating the law and breaking the law. So, which we all have to abide by.
Well, that's one thing I supported. I did support the ordinance. That is just a tool. It's not the end all to be all. That means that we're going to be working with organizations, other entities, to help people on a pathway to success. We know that these encampments, that things occur. Drug overdoses, assaults, you name it, they occur, drug activity. What we need to be doing is we need to be working together as a community. All of us need to be here together. We talk about the laws. So what are we going to do with a homeless person? We're going to continue to write them tickets? We're going to make jail a revolving door? That's not the goal. The goal is to help individuals. Now, not everybody wants help, but we need to be compassionate enough to understand that there's some people out there that don't choose to be homeless. They're homeless because of the situation they're in. And what we need to really be focusing on is what can we do? Now, we have shelters out there for people to go. My main focus is let's work with the people that are families that are homeless. Let's work with them to get them housing. We really need to be compassionate enough to understand this is not the end all to be all. This is simply a part of the tools to help people that are in these situations to get them the help they need. But it's just a tool.
I just want to reiterate, I guess. Law enforcement's job is to deal with crime. Homelessness is not a crime, but it's the criminal behavior around it. The burglaries, the thefts. You go into these homeless camps and there are stolen bicycles, there's stolen yard art. All of this is stolen from the people that live around there. That's unacceptable behavior. We can't blame it on homelessness. We have to be accountable for our actions. And if you're out there committing crime, then the crime needs to be dealt with. That's what the sheriff's office should focus on. That's what law enforcement should focus on. The other avenues of getting help, this is working with your other social services and being in partnerships. Let them do their job, but we have to be focused on this. This is what, you see how bad it's gotten, and this is what happens when we no longer hold people accountable.
You know, I do agree, we have to hold people accountable. But how we hold them accountable and why are they homeless? Let's address those real issues. I do feel for the neighborhoods. I'll talk specifically about Blakely's Junction. Those people who live off Eckerson in that neighborhood never chose for that camp to be there. We should have dealt with that a long time ago. We should have been there, but now we have a tool. Now we have mechanisms that we can go and help these folks. I would love to say that every single person in that homeless camp we can help. That's simply not the fact. But there are people, when you walk through there, that do have mental health issues. They don't say, I want to commit crimes. They just say, I have mental health issues and this is the only place I have. But let's get them the help they need. Now you're saying, hey, Rob, you're the sheriff, so you're just supposed to arrest them. No, we're supposed to work with our community. Why do we have to be last place when it comes to dealing with homelessness?
Thank you. All right, next question. This will be for you, Rob. Please provide your vision for a sheriff's office presence in East Lewis County. Additionally, explain in detail how would you pay for it.
Well, we've already had in place, we've been working with facilities on a substation. I've been working with facilities on a substation since 2017. We've identified the location, it's the Kiona shop. It's county owned, that's where the county shop is. It's high ground, it's where they have all the vehicles if we needed rescue operations, fuel, everything there. The plans are in place for the substation to be built there in 2023 and be completed by fall of 2023. That's the hopes. The total funding for that is about $500,000. It's probably going to come out of capital facilities. This money is already there. It's not a Taj Mahal. It's not a huge facility, but it is a place where we can be. My original offer to the commissioners was to the current Kiona shop to just remodel the inside. We would put a support tech there, and that support tech would be there to help Public Works and the public when they came there, that we could be there. They didn't want it at that time. So now we've got buy-off from the current commissioners that we're going to have our own substation there on county property. This is the most inexpensive. Now, there's been talk of a law and justice and all this other things. Currently, that's not going to happen because the funding's not there. But we do have deputies now that we will be working from mid-county to mid-east county, and then one deputy from Morton to Packwood. So we have a deputy that's going to work from the Onalaska, Mossy Rock area all the way to Randall. So there we have two deputies working a mid-shift and night shift and day shift. So we'll have a total of 3 people in the East End and have that presence. Because we know that the East End is continually growing and there's a lot more we can do.
Tracy, same question to you. Please provide your vision of the sheriff's office presence in East Lewis County. Additionally, explain in detail how would you pay for it.
So, well, it sounds like we currently have money set aside and we currently have staffing to cover some issues. So now it would be, how do we make it better? How do we make it better than just what we're seeing? When I talk about an East End substation, I'm talking about other resources on the East End other than just a sheriff's office. Now that's going to work through collaboration. We have to collaborate together. Whether it is, federal funding and state funding due to COVID-related issues, now we can build a completely new facility that can house all government stuff. You've got a jail facility, you've got a sheriff's office, you've got a courtroom, you've got even an animal shelter. If we look at making this a medical facility, maybe partnering up with the federal government for veterans. They don't have medicals out there. So the more partners that we come together to provide the infrastructure, grant money, funding for green construction, green energy. If we're building a brand new facility, then we have access to more money. Now, this is big picture. This doesn't just benefit law enforcement. This would benefit everyone on the East End. So to say that I'm going to do this is foolishness, because I can't do this. Just like everything that we're talking about, we can't do this by ourselves. We make more impact and we get further along accomplishing our goals when we work together and collaborate together. We know that infrastructure and having buildings, that's where your money is. That's where your most money is. If we can bring people together, it should cut things down. When we talk about staffing, ooh, I saw a red card. You threw up your red card.
Yeah,
didn't
you'll
you?
get your chance.
Okay. So hold that thought.
Yeah. So we talk about partnerships and we talk about these things. It took me 5 years to get where we're at today. It's going to take more than 4 years to be what he's talking about. The fact is that getting that money, that's still taxpayer money. That's your dollars. And we need to spend our dollars wisely. We need to be spending dollars more on how do we get additional staffing. Through this year's budget, I request an additional 2 deputies. Those 2 deputies would be also to work the East End. We need deputies to be working what we had in 1996 and 1997, where there were 2 deputies working night shift together, patrolling all of East End. Today, we only have 1 deputy working days and 1 deputy working nights. That's why we're going to do the mid-shift deputy, to work that mid-shift. To build this thing would take a huge amount of partnerships, and right now I don't see how taxpayer funds would pay for that.
Tracy.
I like partnerships. I like working together. So when we look at taxpayer dollars, we want to see all of our taxpayer dollars come back locally and having a local impact. If we can get it from the federal government to come back here locally, that's what we want. If we can get it from the state to come back here locally, that's what we want. But we need to have these partnerships. We need to have these conversations. We need to have ideas, not just be okay with status quo. Well, this is the way it's always been. In 8 years, we're looking at a staffing issue that should never have been. I mean, if we needed 1996 staffing, then that should have been worked on a long time ago. We need to have strategic planning to do this. Currently, the state patrol they don't have deputy or troopers out on the East End. Okay. It's not because of funding, it's because of the manpower. If they're not willing to staff it, it falls back on us, our responsibility. So we should be having these conversations with the state to get that money back so that we can hire more people.
You know, we talk about staffing. I didn't start the staffing crisis. But in the last 7+ years, I've gotten us 3 additional deputies and an animal control officer. We haven't stopped. We're continuing asking. But that cost is the burden on the citizen, on you, the taxpayer. And that's up to the commissioners to make those decisions. My goal is that we get back up to 1996, 1997 staffing. When you had a population in 1990 of 54,000 people and you had 41 deputies. We have almost 84,000 in Lewis County and our staffing is below that. That's ridiculous. We need to get additional staffing. Building a law and justice center in the East End is not the answer. Providing coverage, being a presence in the East End is what we need. Then we can work on a possible bigger solution.
Thank you.
All right. Whose endorsement of you do you consider to be the most important and why, Mr. Murphy?
I would have to say that God's. So I know that sounds weird. I never planned on running for an elected position ever. But based on what I see and what's going on and the changes that are needed, after a lot of prayer and a lot of talking with my wife, we decided this is what we would do. And, it weighed heavy on my heart. And I would say that that's God weighing heavy on my heart. And so I feel that if God is in this, then, hey, he says, if God is for you, who can be against you? And so I would have to say that my Heavenly Father would be my biggest endorser out of all of this.
It could be a loaded question. Is it the state representative? Is it the local unions? Is it, civic leaders? Or is it the resident of Lewis County who calls you up and says, I support you. I support what you've done. So I can't answer that question because there's people that have called me, they have talked to me, and they said, Rob, I support you 100%. You and your office have been incredible. So to say there's one favorite, I couldn't tell you. Because the people that call, the people that acknowledge you, the people that are out there day in and day out supporting what we're doing at the Lewis County Sheriff's Office, that's my biggest endorsement. And I am a man of faith, and I am blessed to be where I'm at today. I could not be more blessed. But I have a strong family, and, with the good Lord and all those, but there's the people of Lewis County is my greatest endorsement.
All right. Rob, back to you. Are conditions at the jail adequate, and what changes should be made?
Well, there's so many things that go on at the jail. One thing is we need to continue 24-hour medical. That is one of my biggest things. And continue to have mental health there. I really want, once we get through all these COVID issues and stuff, getting ministry back in is huge. I talk to a lot of people who want the ministry back in. That's what I want. But we also want to be able to provide other opportunities for our individuals. But continuing the 24-hour medical, continuing having mental health there, that's a big challenge because there was money that was being questioned because we were no longer able to get the grant funding that we had from Cascade, and we had to ask for funding from the county commissioners. And the good news is they were able to do it. But here's where we're challenged at. Right now, with the increase in the economy, our medical's gone up 36% in salaries. Food coverage has gone up. Providing all those things, these little things, we need to continue that. We cannot go back on what we've started. We need to continue to provide the level of service that we've been doing now and into the future. It is going to cost money. I'm not going to kid you about that. But I'm telling you, the results that we get is priceless. And if you could change a person's life, would you do it? The answer is always yes, but what if you could change more than one? What if you could change multiple people's lives simply by providing those services? That's what we need to be doing. So.
And Tracy, same questions. Are the conditions at the jail adequate, and what changes should be made?
Well, we already know that there was a study done recently about just the jail facility itself. There's some mandatory upgrades or repairs that need to be done. They're the priorities: the new roof, the HVAC, the electrical, and the lighting, which is going to cost, well, at the time, a little over $6 million to a little over $9 million. Who knows what it is now? So obviously, the infrastructure part of the jail is going to have to be worked on. When we talked about the medical side does need to be worked. If they have medical staffing there that's 24/7, they should be able to deal with the issues of if an officer arrests somebody, they bring them to the jail, but because they had used fentanyl or admitted to use fentanyl, we have to take them to the hospital where they are monitored for 8 hours until they can be booked. So if we have 24-hour staffing, medical staffing at the jail, we should increase whatever infrastructure they need to be able to, instead of taking them to the jail, taking them to the hospital, that they can go to the jail, be monitored there, and then cleared. Because that frees up your deputies or your officers who should be out working the streets, keeping us safe, instead of tied up for any amount of time guarding somebody at the hospital. So those are huge things. As well as getting the ministry program reinstated back at the jail, I think that's a priority. When we talk about mental health, what's better for your mental health?
And there's a rebuttal.
There is. Let's go with the repairs. I've heard this time and time again. They simply cannot afford to rebuild a jail. The jail has been the way it is since it was built. 20 plus years ago. We've had an issue with the HVAC system. That is currently under contract and they're working on it. The issue came up with the roofing. The roofing is over $2 million. They simply don't have the funding they're going to be working on. These are things, it's like a home. You have to continually work on your home. You don't tear your home down, you work on it and you continue to keep it going because it's the county taxpayers' money. It's all of your monies that are being spent and they need to be spent wisely. Now, do I wish they could do everything all at once? Absolutely. I wish they could. But let's go back to the medical. If you have an individual that's under fentanyl, the chances of them dying is huge. That's where they go to the hospital. Because the liability would be on the sheriff's office is not where it needs to be.
Just made it.
Oh, I don't know what I was going to do that for. Oh, you're going to, I haven't even said anything
thought
and
you
you want
were.
to rebuttal.
I wasn't finished. I was going to let you know.
Oh,
that.
okay.
I want to give you an opportunity.
Yeah, no, I don't even know it. Oh, so I just want to make it clear because I've heard you say this a couple different times, tearing the jail down. So in my lifetime, I have remodeled several houses. Good bones, good structure, just needed some remodel done. I am not saying, or ever have I ever, that our current jail needs to be tore down. That is a waste of money and that's not practical. What we have to do is we have to retrofit and we have to figure out how can we build on? Can we get the things that we need to make it a functional jail that's going to work the way that we need it to work? But tearing it down, no, that has never been said by me. So I want to make sure that you understand that.
Well, I'm curious because I have heard that in the past, but okay, we can agree to that because tearing down this facility is not the answer.
No.
Rebuilding is not the. What we need to do is upkeep it, and that is the challenge: is upkeeping. Jails are very expensive. That's the unfortunate part of a jail. It's expensive. You're not going to make money at a jail. There is no way you're going to do it. But we have a 1/10 of 1% sales tax that we use, and we use that money to whether it's the video system in our facility, the upgrades. We continually are working on upgrades in our facility all the time. There's not, whether it's the plumbing, whether it's new pipes, whether it's working on putting new cells in. We have 2 negative airflow cells now. We also had to redo the women's cell because there was only one toilet. We got to fix those things. Those are things that need to be fixed, and we're continually doing that.
It just had one thing, and it comes to the medical side of things, and liability. And when we look at not wanting the hospitals to be burdened with people from the jail, that this is where partnerships are important and having conversations with the medical side. You know, the administrators over at Providence what are they willing to do for us and help us out financially, with staffing, so that we don't have to bring our people who are in custody to their facility, which is open to the public. So these are conversations that need to be had. We need to look at other options and other alternatives for funding and dealing with the medical side.
So I did do that. We currently do have in place, we're working with the Centralia College on the nursing program and providing training for those that are going to be nurses. So we've already we started to establish that just within the last month to work out to where we're going to have nurses from the Centralia. But what I want to say is the partnerships with Providence stuff. You know, NAVCare is a separate entity. It's a corrections facility medical program. And they're separate. And they have certain guidelines. If someone's been in a vehicle accident, if they've under drugs, have taken drugs, they're automatically deferred to the hospital before they're admitted in. Because once we admit them in our facility, the burden is now on the Lewis County Sheriff's Office. Those are the challenges we're seeing. And we need to be diligent in making sure that we're doing the right thing for our community.
I just want to say I think that the risk is worth it in order to keep criminals off the streets and to keep our citizens safe. I think that the risk is worth it.
I think the risk if we did accept them and they died, would be a lot bigger than just telling the officer, hey, I'm sorry, you're going to have to take him to Providence first to get him medically cleared. Because someone dies in an in-custody death, that's a huge deal. That's incumbent upon us. And where's our responsibility as the sheriff's office? As the medical program? That's why there's rules in place. And we need to be cautious about that, and we need to be careful when we bring people in. Because once we bring them in, we own it. Everything is on us, and we have to be cautious on that.
I'm curious about what happened to the recent death that occurred inside the jail, because that wasn't one that was brought in. That was one that was housed.
Well, you asking me the question now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. So there was a recent in custody death. What that was is that is still under investigation and the cause of that. So, but there were life-saving measures that were put in there. Corrections deputies came in and performed life-saving measures. Unfortunately, the individual passed away. But there are individuals that also come into our facility that have pre-existing medical issues. It could be cancer. It could be dialysis. It could be anything that they're brought into our facility because that's what the prosecutor's office says. They're going in and so does the judge. So we have to deal with that. But we do everything we can to prevent that. No one wishes to have an in-custody death. And we work diligently to make sure that that is prevented as much as we possibly can. We can't prevent heart attacks. We can't prevent other issues that people die of. It's simply we can't stop everything.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I am hearing is that it is important to look at boosting up the medical side of the jail so that we don't have in-custody deaths and limit the liability. If that means upping the capabilities of the medical staff, then that's what we should be looking at.
You touch on a point, the medical issue. We have good medical in there. The problem is it costs money for medical. The staff there at the Lewis County Jail, the medical staff, they do everything they can when somebody comes in. They are interviewed, they are everything, their blood pressure is taken, all the things. They're asked about everything they have. You will never be able to stop 100% an in-custody death. You can try to prevent it as much as possible. But we're not responsible. You know, when the judge says, hey, the person with cancer, stage 4 cancer is coming in. The person with dialysis is coming in. We can't stop that. That is not on us. We have to do our best to do it. And I will tell you, the medical company, NAFCare Medical, is one of the best medical facilities in our corrections that we have. And they've been a great partner for us. So.
All right, last question, and I'd like to remind you both you have unlimited.
I'm sorry, Jim.
I didn't think he knew, right?
Beginning to catch on. If granted the ability to immediately change recent police reform laws, what would you do and why? Mr. Murphy first.
Oh, if we had the power, if
you-
we were the
If you were
lawmakers.
granted the ability to immediately change recent police reform laws, what would you do and why?
I'll tell you, the biggest thing is going to be on the pursuits. You know, we're limiting the officer's ability to go after criminals, take them into custody, and put them where they need to be by restricting us in that avenue. What else it's caused is criminals know this, and so they just take off and don't stop because they know they're not going to be pursued. And the only things that currently the law allows us to pursue for is suspected DUI, probable cause for a sex offense, or probable cause for a violent offense. And so your burglary, that's just a property crime, stolen vehicle crime, you can't pursue for that. You know, in my entire career in law enforcement, prior to these changes, the risk versus the reward was always a decision that the officer involved had to make. The risk of the danger to the public versus the reward of apprehension. And so we take in everything. That would constantly change. If you're out on a rural county road and it's middle of the night, there's no other traffic, then what's the risk to the public versus the reward for the capture? Now, if it's during the daytime and you're coming into a city or a school where kids are out playing, you got to look, what's the risk versus the reward? So you have to say, what kind of crime are we chasing this guy for? So if it's just a misdemeanor crime, a non-violent, then yeah, terminating would be the better way to go, because government has to protect the people. And so in that situation, that's what we would do. So, I mean, that would be, for me, I think the most important one to change is the pursuit law.
So I agree with the pursuit one. But also, I think the Blake decision hurt us when we basically, he and I will disagree on this, but if someone was in possession of methamphetamine, you can't arrest them the first time. What you do is you give them a warning ticket and you take their drugs away from them. When the Blake decision took place, we lost 17 people out of drug court. We lost 17 families, 17 extended families, and 17 individuals that had a possible pathway to success, to be drug-free. The Blake decision has had a huge impact on our society as a whole. It needs to have a greater discussion than saying, drugs are going to do this. Let's make it a misdemeanor. The only difference is you make it a misdemeanor, they're not going to arrest him on that first time. We need to take that back, because there are people out there that are in simple possession of drugs. We could have changed their lives. The possibility of changing. Lewis County has one of the most successful drug courts in the state. And I would take it across the United States, because we're very successful. And that's what we need to take pride in, is what we did. But we lost 17 people. So getting people into drug court now is a challenge. But also on the pursuits, we've had a number of burglaries, vehicle prowls, where we've had suspects. We're right behind the suspect. We got their license plate, we got all this other stuff. Or we don't. And we know the person's got warrants in the car and they just committed a burglary. And yet we turn on the lights and they keep going. We have to discontinue that pursuit. Now here's where I tell you, if you're a family member, a victim of a crime, that is where it really affects our community.
Okay, I was looking at you early on.
Yes.
And that was only because you say, I agree with the pursuit law.
I did agree.
No, you agreed with what I
I did
said, not
agree
with
with
the
what-
law.
yeah, I did.
Yes.
I agree with what
No,
you
that was
said.
just getting clarification. You don't
You
agree with the
explained it
pursuit
very
law.
well.
So Blake, I just want to, so earlier this year, the legislators did change the law. No longer do we have to warn them. RCW 6950-4013 makes possession of a controlled substance a misdemeanor crime. So it is a misdemeanor crime now. There is no more warning issues that we have to do. So just clarification of that yes, it is nice if they make it a felony crime, because people are more willing to go do drug court and be on probation for 2 years in lieu of getting a felony conviction. A misdemeanor charge, what's a year, right? So I think that making it a misdemeanor instead of a felony, I think it de-incentivizes people's ability to do drug court.
As far as the sheriff's office, we have not received anything changing on how we do business regarding the simple possession of drugs. Any possession of drugs should be illegal and dealt with, however it is. But I want to get back to what we've done with these laws. These laws have basically enabled us in law enforcement from doing our job. They have given the criminal the more opportunities. The criminal element knows what these laws are. They know them better than we do at times. So when you're behind somebody after stealing someone that you took, it may be a family heirloom. It may be something so precious to you it has no value to it. But can you imagine, sheriff's office shows up, you said they went that way. I just saw them. They left in that vehicle. That's where they went. And then we weren't able to pursue them because they took off, and we can't pursue them. Those need to be changed.
All right. Well, with that concludes the questions, so now we will go to closing statements. And Rob Snaza started the opening statement, so we're going to start with you, Tracy, on the closing statements.
So I'll make mine brief again, just like my opening statement. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk. If anybody has any questions out there, they can contact me through the campaign's website. I hope that everyone gets out and votes this year. We're 12 days away. So I just encourage everybody to get out and vote. And again, I hope that you vote for me and that I am your next Lewis County Sheriff. So thank you.
And Rob?
Well, I want to thank the board, and I want to thank those that are viewing this for listening to us. Obviously, there's some things that we agree on, and there's things that we don't agree with. But I've been sheriff for 7+ years. There's a lot we're going to do and continue to do. Lewis County is one of the greatest places to live, work, and raise our families. But you know, a lot of things have been said, and a lot of misstatements have been said. And I want people to look, to do their own study, to look at what we're doing. The men and women of the Lewis County Sheriff's Office are doing some of the most outstanding work, whether it's in our corrections facility, whether it's on the road, or in the front office. We work with some of the greatest people. And I can tell you, each and every day, we're out there to serve this community to the best we can. And we're never going to quit working harder to serve you folks. So I thank you for the opportunity, and we'll see you guys in 12 days.
Thank you.